Hello, hello. I can see people coming in. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Hi Lucy, hi Kim. Oh my goodness, thank you girls. Thank you for joining. We've got a few to come, so I'll just give it a few seconds. But how nice to see you, even though I can't see you properly. Thank you so much for having faith and taking the time to just see what's going on out there and how we're all doing. So massively appreciate it. What I'll do is I'll just do a little intro. I know you guys know most people on here, actually, looking at the others that are coming in as well. Most people do know me, but this will just sort of give me a bit of time. Hello, Kim. This will give a bit of time for people to come in, and you can just catch up with where my little life story. So obviously, as you guys know, I set up Park Lane Events 5 years ago. Oh, by the way, if I'm looking over here, it's because I've got a little iPad and some of my notes and things on here. So it's just kind of reminding me to keep on track and time as well. So, you know, I've got Park Lane Events. I set it up 5 years ago, doing venue consultation and venue finding and networking. And I think some of these webinars are now going to be taking over the networking side of things. And at least it's some way that we can try and communicate with each other, and Zoom calls. And, you know, if you ever want to have a Zoom call with me where we can actually see each other as well, and just swap ideas of what we're doing, then that's really cool. Brilliant. We've got some more people joining us as well. So I, as I said, set up Park Lane Events 5 years ago, and I've been in the industry over 20 years. I did a training management course in Oxfordshire. To begin with, I've worked in all the departments of a hotel, majority housekeeping, conference, reception. I then got into sales and hotel sales, and have been in hotels ever since. And that's why I set up Park Lane Events, that I could do venue finding as well as consultation on venue sales. And with the networking, it meant I could choose who I could work with as well. So that's just a little background there. So I think that's everything about me for those that don't know as well. But thank you so much for joining today, as I said, because there's just so much there's just so much confusion at the moment of this rules and what's the guidelines, and it's forever changing. And at least what we have now, I think, is going to be with us for the next 6 months. And there's pros and cons, of course, of knowing that this is going to be like this for the next 6 months, but at least we can try and adapt, knowing that this is going to be here for a while, rather than do I need to adapt for this or that or the other because it's only going to be a short time. And, you know, personally, with my venue finding stuff, so much was moved to this quarter, and that's all moved again as well to next year. So the long end, the end is in sight there, but how long can we keep going like this for? So feel free at any time to, contact me if you want to share either what you're going through or ideas and things. And this one, I specifically did 3 separate webinars with the same topic. So some of the slides are the same, but we're all in different parts of the game, aren't we, really, with either with I did corporate one first thing this morning, and that was interesting, and I've put in some of the questions that some of them were asking even this morning, and then lunchtime I did one with the venues, and then with us guys with it sort of events and freelancers, it's how can we all try and work together as well. So I shall start sharing my screen. One thing I realized was how predominant my lisp is as well, which is hilarious. I'm quite nervous anyway. I'm talking quite fast because I get quite nervous and passionate about it all. And then I see my lips kind of, anyway. Right, I'm going to share my screen with you guys. She says, so just bear with me. Here we are, share screen. So share, let me know if you can see this. Let's get the chat back as well. Can you see that before I start warbling on? You should just be the big logo of Park Lane Events. Yeah, is that okay? Looks good, thank you. So let's crack on. So the idea, obviously, as I've just said, let's try and communicate with each other and help each other out. What I've been finding is a lot of people are asking me, and different people are asking me the same question: how can we run these conferences for up to 30 people? What examples? What is a COVID secure venue? So I've got examples of those. Hybrid events, this is the way forward. Christmas is still coming, so I've got a couple of ideas in there. And obviously how to keep motivated. And again, for us, as you know, on the agency and freelancer side, it's people are coming to you and me for the answers, and we're just learning about that ourselves, and keeping motivated ourselves, as well as trying to keep the industry motivated as well, which is harsh right now, to say the least, but we shall not dwell, we shall be positive here. So I thought I'd share where I get my information from, and a lot of you will be similar. Gov.uk, obviously the mainstay of where everybody goes to get their information from, but it's very grey, isn't it? It can be quite long and laborious, and you can read it, and by the end of it, you're still not quite sure what we can do for conference and events. And for some things it's very clear, but for conference and events it definitely is not, which is why we're all in this situation of what can we do and how do we do it. And different venues are saying different things, and there's so much mixed messages. So what I have found is HireSpace is quite good for their white papers. They try and get what they can from those government guidelines and peers as well. The event industry news, they have like sort of roundups, and the caterer has weekly roundups and some daily stuff. It depends on what you tick on there. So they're quite good. Obviously, I know we all know about MNIT and CNIT as well. And there's obviously lots out there, but they are sort of my mainstay. And I've put the exhibitions in the bottom there because I think one of the webinars I'll do at a later date, perhaps in New Year, there'll be a segment on exhibitions, because obviously this last quarter they were supposed to take place either virtually or in person, and the meeting show I know is still running virtually, but a lot of others it's changed. And what different things are they doing next year? So I know the BNC is going to do a different style of forum. They're adapting what they do. The CHS show, they were due to do something in Birmingham, and they normally do something in Leeds, so they've postponed that. So it's just for us all as well to try and keep on top of what's everybody doing and where. So if there's interest, do let me know, and I'll pop that into a future webinar as well to try and keep us all updated that way. So what we can and can't do. So this came from, I read it in Conference News, which came from the MIA, so that business events for up to 30 may continue. And this was from the Department for Culture, Media and Sport, who confirmed this, that smaller business and training events can take place in COVID secure venues, i.e. venues that follow the official health guidance. So you're like, well, what does that mean? How many? And as you can see there, the total of 30 covers everyone involved in the event, including any venue or organizer staff in the same room. It does not permit an event for 30 delegates and further staff, which would take the total beyond. So that's, we needed that clarification, because this whole 30, you kind of think, well, I have 30 there, then someone might bring in tea and coffee, or the person that works at the venue will come in, and that's where, depending on the venue you speak to, you need to ask that clarification of what interaction does the venue have with the delegates. So, and I've got some slides about a venue that I went to see and how it's working for them. The best way to do it is when the people from the hotel do not go into the meeting rooms once they've been cleaned and tidied anyway, because that way you can have up to your 30, including the trainer, in that room. But, and I'm going to come on to this in a second, it has to be in pods of 6 people when you're there. So you say you've got 30 people, you need to have them, when they go for lunch, for example, 6 people that go together, have lunch, sit on their table of 6 in the restaurant, because when you're in the restaurant at during a conference, then it sits under what we've seen with the bars, restaurants and things, where you can have up to 6 people that don't live with each other at the same table. And that's the same in a conference. That's how they would go and have their lunch, with those 6 people. Now those 6 people will come back, and basically when you've come back to your meeting room, you'll still all be sitting in, they're recommending classroom style, for example. So it might be you'll have socially distanced classroom style, and then you will go in pods of 6 to sit at your table when you go and have your lunch. So what this means is, in the meeting room itself, you can't mingle around. So even though you've just sat 6 of you at a table at lunchtime, you can't then mingle amongst each other in the conference room, which is bizarre, I know. But the idea is that when you go in your conference, you then stay in these pods of 6. Once you've got these pods of 6, you can't mingle from one 6 to another 6 between these tables either. So somebody was asking about lunches, like you have a conference and then you have a dinner. You can do that, but those people of 6 on each table have to stay between themselves when they're having their dinner. So you can obviously go to the loo and things like that on your own, but you can't mingle. You're at this table of 6, you can't then mingle over with another table of 6, and then you know, if you need to go back to your conference room, if it was a lunch, you then pretty much are in your area in that lunch space. So those 30 can't move around with each other in that conference room, and that's the biggest setback, isn't it, with the networking and all those lovely events, where that's the whole point of them, is that everybody's talking and connecting with each other. What you could have, if it's a couple of days, you have 6 people throughout the day that are sort of connecting, and then the next day it's a different set of 6 people. You can actually do that, but you know, I'm not sure what that scenario exactly would be when you're taking days and days. So this announcement came hours after Boris Johnson announced that conferences and exhibitions will not be allowed to run from 1st of October. So that's the clarification that was obviously needed. And I'll go into more examples of that 6 and the 30, because it's all a bit blurry, isn't it, really? So this morning when I was going through this, these with some of the corporate clients that we work with, these were some of the questions that they were asking as well, because of this reiteration, which actually I had coming. So this is what we need to communicate to everybody and understand ourselves. Does that 30 include suppliers, venue staff as well? So no, it does. No, it does not. So, sorry, yes, it does. Does help if I'm saying the right thing. So it has to be 30 is your top level, including venue staff that are coming into your conference room if they need to come in. What's happening now is conference people aren't coming in to the conference rooms. They're putting the seal across the door. So the venues are putting a seal across the door and the door frame that says this is a COVID secure room, if you like. So then the only people that will go into that now is the people that are having the meeting, the delegates, and then it won't be serviced throughout that whole day like we're used to, like going in at break and lunchtime. It's only going to be serviced when everybody's left and the meeting is over, and like, as in, even if it's 2 days later, if it's a 2-day meeting. So once everyone's literally left the building. So that's the level of service that's obviously changed now, that you know, that's what we want to get back to eventually. And what some places are doing are putting boxes of, perhaps it might be cleaning gloves, cleaning spray, so that when you're in the room, if you do need to wipe things down yourself, which is obviously encouraged, it's encouraged to wipe your tables every time you use them, you've got all of that in there and you can use that yourself without having somebody from the hotel or venue come in and do that for you. Other questions were, is that the same than if we did a rule of 6 event? So yes, it would still be 6 pods of people just in their own little area, and then going out for lunch. You can go out for lunch in your 6s and have everybody having lunch and then coming back. And I mentioned about dining and lunch there. And then a good one was, can site visits FAMs be education? Because I'll come on to a bit in a minute when I'm talking about that. So that was a really good question when I was going through some of the next part. Feedback from this morning, and this was what was wonderful, was how helpful everybody found it, which kind of showed how much it's needed for us all to try and communicate this with our clients and to anybody that will listen, because obviously the more we all understand it, the more we can actually start doing something. I fully appreciate there is not a lot of money to be made in the small events either. However, at least it's possible where those opportunities allow. So and at least we know if we are saying no, we are saying it for the right reason as well. So that was good to know this morning. So what I did, I kind of backtracked a little bit and say, look, this is what we do know. We know that you can't, you know, where you can't stay 2 meters apart. Where you can't stay 2 meters apart, you should stay more than 1 meter, as well as taking extra steps to stay safe, because there is a bit of confusion with this 1 meter and 2 meter. The guideline is 2 meters, but if you can't stay more than 1 meter, that's fine. And so in venues, that is where they're saying, well, you can be 1 meter apart. The tables might be 1 meter apart. are in the conference rooms, and when we're going about our daily business. If you can't, then that's where that 1 metre comes from there. The whole face covering masks thing, so that's now everywhere, as we know. I always think about it, if in a conference and event environment, if you're getting up to walk away from the conference room and you're going to the toilet, for example, you've got to wear your mask. But if you're sitting down and you're working away and you're eating, then you don't have to. So if you're going to the restaurant or the toilet, you have to wear them on the way there and on the way back. But if you're sitting down to have a coffee or something to eat, then obviously you don't have to wear them. And that's this, I think we kind of know that anyway, because that's the same when we're in the pub or restaurant, in shops and things like that. Obviously they're recommending move outdoors where it is safer and there is more space. So it'd be good to see what more venues are doing over the winter time of heated outside areas where possible, and then where they've said it may not always be possible or practical to maintain social distancing when providing care to a young child or person with a disability or health condition. And that's the extra concern that we need to be aware of if there are disabilities or health conditions, of somebody not being able to wear a face covering, or being able to stay that distance apart, because obviously if somebody needs help, they need that. So that's the difference there. So this whole groups of 6, rule of 6 thing, what does this mean for events? Because it's still not quite clear, I think. Yes, follow the social distancing rules when we meet up, 1+ metre. Right, we've got that. Limit how many different people you see socially over a short period of time. So one of the things I heard on the radio the other day was you had a caller saying, so I can go and meet 5 people at a pub, and then I can go to another pub and meet another 5 people. And so how, ways that they're trying to get around it. And the doctor that was on the radio at the time was saying, you've got to try and use your common sense, and that's not an ideal situation. So it is difficult, isn't it? Definitely. And then they're recommending, as we know, meet people outdoors where practical, and that meeting people outdoors is safer than meeting people indoors because fresh air provides better ventilation. So that, when you're speaking to venues, is asking about their air conditioning. Now that's something that has been coming up on risk assessments. How is your air circulated? So all sorts of people are now getting involved in what's an initial inquiry, because obviously you can't have the ventilation going around circulating, obviously. So that's something to bear in mind. And again, you must not meet in a group of more than 6 indoors or outdoors. This is against the law. So you have to say no to that number 7. But again, that takes us back to that. But hang on, you can still have a meeting for 30 people, but you just can't, on a social aspect where you're going to be mingling, have more than 6 there. So these are where the exceptions come in, because this is where the grey lines are. And particular work, education or training is where there are exceptions. So that's where the up to 30 people comes in. So you can have more than 6 of you in a conference room. Obviously at work, we know that, as long as they're socially distanced. But also with conference and events, the education or training value. And this is where somebody asked earlier about fam trips as well. Where does that sit with the rule of 6? And I said, well, say you had 10 of you, you would have 6 of you doing a site visit, and you would sit together, and you would have breakfast together. And then the other 4, you would have a separate site visit when you're walking around, and you would have a separate table. So the 4 can mingle together, the 6 can mingle together, but you can't cross over at all. So it was things like that where you can do the fan trips, but that's what you have to kind of abide by, those guidelines. And then with training, there is a lot of training still going on out there, because you can do that, you're sitting in classroom style. So it's understanding what, again, this is why we need to know what we can and can't do. I have just kept in sort of the wedding, some of you probably know this already, wedding and civil partnership ceremonies and receptions for up to 15 people only, but this does not include suppliers. So this is again where it started to get a bit confusing, because you can have your photographer as your number 16 if you like, your florist is number 17, and cake supplier. So while they're all setting up and things like that, that's fine to be in the room. The registrar though is included in that 15, and the bride and groom of course, so that's still less guests, isn't it? And funerals up to 30 people, which does not include wakes, which I think's just such a shame, obviously, obvious reasons. And then what did interest me was the exercise classes, can be more than 6, organised outdoor sport or licensed outdoor physical activity. So that made me think about the team building and the possibilities there. I appreciate the weather is starting to turn, but there's obviously team building do indoors and outdoors, and with so much space that is going to be available where they're indoor spaces, where they're not taking meetings anymore, that might actually be something to look into. So I've got a couple of slides on examples there, and of course protests as well. So you can do that, as we know. And I have to say, well done to all the people that have been on the protests in Parliament Square recently, and it's just been fantastic to see the support, and obviously on LinkedIn and the social media platforms we've just been doing with We Make events. That's all we can keep doing, just keep supporting each other there. So when we're talking about venues following the COVID-19 secure guidelines, it's again just reiterating what they are doing and what you can do in them, and it's this whole do not mix in a group of greater than 6. You know, follow the limits of the number of other people who should meet. So again, they do just keep reiterating this in there. Avoid social interaction with anyone outside the group you're with, even if you see other people you know. And then it mentions the NHS test and trace. So if you have a event and you've got say 20 people there, and you have the organizer will obviously have everybody's details that's registered for that event, and they can be the go-to person then for the test and trace. So we've seen the QR codes appearing, and that's obviously what we're going to see more of in venues. And as soon as you get into a venue and reception, you see that, and you scan it, and you've probably downloaded it on your phone already. However, that's a guideline, that's not law, and this is what I was talking to a venue about yesterday. And that's why if somebody's uncomfortable with the whole like Big Brother thing as well, it's in everybody's interest obviously to use this, but then you can't make somebody do it. So they can't have somebody there saying you must do it, otherwise you can't come in. So that's something to be aware of, and I think that's why it's helpful that venues are able to use the organizer as their next stage of track and trace. So at least then, if there is an outbreak of COVID in that venue, they will go to that event organizer and say, we need to contact all those people, or the NHS needs to contact all these people. So we need all their details. So I thought that was quite an interesting thing to know there. So I went to Why Boston Lakes yesterday, and to have a really good look. They're only sort of 15 minutes down the road from me, up in Bedfordshire, because this announcement, as you know, came in on Tuesday, the 22nd of September. They're saying it's a minimum of 6 months. This takes us to the 22nd of March, so let's say 1st of April, and they want you to use COVID secure venues. So what are these COVID secure venues, and who are they, and what do they have to achieve? So when I went to Why Boston yesterday, they have 63 meeting rooms, and every single one was in use. And that's just kind of unheard of. Now, some of that it's not unheard of in normal times, obviously, but it is for most venues at the moment. Now, one of the reasons is obviously people need bigger function rooms, so all their stuff is being used with just less people. And of course, they've got all these signs everywhere, face coverings must be worn in this building. It was really good to see how it's being done. And so I had a really good chat with them there. So this, for example, is one of the, and I don't know if you've had a chance to have a look at any venues yet. I know we're seeing obviously a lot on on social media. But for example, with the coffee station here, you've got there that coffee machine, it says private meeting. Normally that's where the company would be, but this was a confidential one here. So you know that this is your area and you are the only people allowed to use this area. You've got the mask display there as well, saying you must use your masks again, and behind that you can see that QR code. So here there's lots of different areas in the venue where you can still continue kind of checking in, if you like, and then people can literally see where every single person that has been in the venue, where have they been, and therefore who needs to be contacted. They had disposable cups there as well, of course, and that's what we're going to see more of. And they have water stations outside the function room, so you can pick up like a carafe of water and you fill it yourself, you take your own glass, and that's what you would have throughout the whole day. So that was quite interesting. You won't have that level of service of people coming in at lunchtime and servicing your room and things like that, as I said. You can see you've got their banner up there as well, and they had loads of those. And I think that's the thing, we just need these constant reminders wherever we are. We all know what it's like when you go into a venue and you're like, oh, I don't even know where the loos are, and you're finding your bearings as it is. So to be having this continual reminder, I don't think that's a bad thing, especially at the moment. And obviously you can see on the floor there as well. So that was just quite a good example of how they're doing it and how it's working to keep people contained there. And again, with the whole teas and coffee, if you have a break, all 30 people need to come out, it would make sense for 6 people at a time to come out, but as long as everybody's socially distanced of that meter, they can come out at the same time, they go and help themselves, and then they go back. And there's lots of one-way routes, which again we've seen anyway in the last few months. So then I had a look at Royal Lancaster and London. I haven't physically been there because of the whole hybrid thing. So with Royal Boston, that was great if you can do the face-to-face stuff. Obviously they could do the hybrid stuff as well, but there's a couple of properties that have really stuck out with some of the stuff they're doing. I've just seen IET venues are now putting their stuff out as well in London, and this is obviously what we're going to see a lot more of. So if you get a chance to go on the Royal Lancaster website, they've got a little video of this, which is nearly 2 minutes, and that's really good. And they, as you can see with that list there, all the things they can do, but in particular working safely with the COVID-19 guidelines. They've got global studios in New York as well if people are doing stuff overseas, and their smart studio is what their AV company are. So that was just a really good example. I thought you can have all these different screens going on there, and some of this stuff obviously isn't new, it's just that it's more improved. I think now people are getting the latest technology in, and it's just a matter of more people are going to see this now, aren't they? And this is new to some people that haven't had to look at this option before. And also another one that came up was St Ermin's Hotel, also in London, as most of you know. And one thing that I liked about what these guys have done, so in one of those bullet points it says, in September we hosted the World Retail Congress with over 3,000 delegates attending virtually, and the feedback from the organisers was that this was a huge success. So we're all kind of looking for places where things have been done already, which is really difficult because this is all still quite new. And I thought that was a brilliant example. This was all on LinkedIn a few days ago, so great for them to put this up. And you know what I did like is their room here, where you've got the traditional environment meeting the modern technology and how it's all going. And they've got those socially distanced tables there, and you can see you know, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people at each of these tables. And so that kind of really demonstrates that whole, these are your little pods, this is how you can do it all in the same room. As long as there's no more than 30 in here at any one time, you can have your meeting like this. And then when you go to lunch, stick with those people that you're sitting on your table with. And that's who you'd have your lunch with and coming back. So I kind of demonstrate that quite well, I thought. And then we were talking about team building and, well, how is this going to work, especially if you can do face-to-face, that's great. Off limits, there's obviously lots of venue event management companies out there, and team building companies. And Off limits was quite a good one. I've known Martin there for quite a few years, and he was talking about how they've done things for 60 people, and they've had 2 groups of 30, and then in those groups of 30 you've got these bubbles of 6 again. So it's really just kind of understanding that whole bubble of 6, they move around for the whole day, but they can be in a same one area or one room of 30, and then there could be another room of 30, and they've all got to be in those bubbles of 6. So that's how they were able to do an event for 60 people during this time, which is great. We want to hear stories like that, don't we? We were talking about the risk assessments again. They provide all of that. They've invested in Zuno, which is like your fogging, which I think we've probably all heard of now. They use this. This is used in the London Underground and recognised as the highest sanitizer available currently. So there's all this stuff that we're learning now, and I thought that was a really good accolade there. They've been established over 25 years, have over 30 staff, and they've always done all over UK, and they do overseas stuff. So we talked about virtual, non-virtual, and hybrid, and one of the things that Martin was saying is, even if somebody books this or books whatever it is, and I've got some examples coming up, even if they book it and it's a hybrid or it is face-to-face, he said it takes 2 or 3 days, that's all, just to make it a virtual event. So it's not a biggie if things change like they just have done. But I think we're kind of know where we are now anyway, don't we, with the next sort of 6 months. So this is just them with their machine there. I love their rage buggy. I thought that was a great idea. You're on your own in there as well. And again, them reiterating, stay within your group. So it is up to all the providers, all the suppliers to be reinforcing that each time. Somebody asked me about Christmas, and is there anyone that's doing a traditional roast, dinner for Christmas dinner that we can have virtual? And Martin happened to have one of these in his presentation that he sent me. So I thought, well, this is brilliant. This is such a good idea. They'll be able to change this cooking class into a Christmas meal dinner that you could have. So I thought that was a really good idea. There is obviously a need. At the same time, he's putting this out there. Somebody's asking me, do I know anybody that does this? So that's brilliant. The hacker workshop, I think this looks brilliant for getting that energy up. Somebody that was on one of the calls earlier said they've done it with them, and it's absolutely brilliant. And you turn up with at your, this can be at home, and you turn up with your mask already on, so you're all there with the makeup on, as it were, and they talk you through the history of it, and you'll do it. So you could all be on lots of different screens. Again, if it's hybrid, you'd have people in your room. You could have up to 25-30 people in the function room doing it. Everyone can see it at home, and then you can join in at home, which I think would be quite hilarious, and how great for your energy levels to do something like that as well. So that's cool. And then finally, the escape room, and I know that's really popular with a lot of people at the moment. So it was just interesting to see how this is done virtually now as well. And the teams have to design a strategy and manage their time carefully. They're the ones that will succeed. And the aim of the game is to solve the clues, crack the codes, and break free all before you run out of time. And they do that for about 90 minutes. So that's all done through your smartphone as well. So you can see there that it gives a rough ideas. So I think it's really good just to swap some of these ideas now of what's working, what can we do virtually out there, and recommend to people. So then I've also been asked what should the corporates be asking the venues for, and this is what I mentioned them today. Obviously, risk assessment, definitely. What have the venues put in place? We know that we can find that information on the hotels' websites most of the time, and most hotels are being really good at sending it out when you have an inquiry. But for some people, they haven't had an inquiry yet, so it's kind of like, well, what do I need to ask now? What are those extra things? And I've said to them, ask the venue. What does the venue need? Ask the venue. What do they need from you? So each property might be different as well. So that they might need certain things. What does the venue need you to communicate to your delegates? So again, going back to that QR code thing, where if that's something that you want to communicate to your delegates, that if you know that there are people that are worried about this whole Big Brother thing, why should I do that or whatever, you can say it's fine, you don't need to do it. We advise you do, and again, whatever the policies are with the company as well. One thing I would say suggested to say is ask what hours and days you're contacting the venue is working, which is something we've never really had to ask before, because to keep that consistency up for that booking, none of us are in any urgent rush right now for responses, because obviously there's not a lot going on at the moment. So we have got the time to wait for people to come back if they're only working 2 days a week, for example. What I have found when I have been putting inquiries or trying to contract stuff or moving stuff, when it's different people, and some of these people are replying, and some of these people are not normally in this position, so they're not used to perhaps phrasing things in the way that we need them phrased, which then leads me to ask further questions, so to avoid all of that, I'm like, right, I just need to speak to the same person that's normally in this position on those 2 days a week or whenever it is, and I know that we all know to ask for who the contact on the day is, but again, just to reiterate, it could be somebody different as all these changes are happening, and just to make sure that person is aware of everything that you need. And accreditations, of course, there's lots of accreditations coming out now to be COVID secure. You've got HBA, MIA, and HireSpace, and various things, AA, various different accreditations. And one thing, to be honest, I think that there should be is all these associations get together to put a COVID accreditation specifically for the conference and event industry, because that's where we'll all just follow the same rules. Everybody knows, right, they've got that one thing, that's great, because again, one accolade might mean more than another one to somebody, or some people might not even recognize some of them as well. Not everybody knows who the HBA is, not everybody knows who HireSpace is. We all know who the AA is, for example. Maybe they should be the leaders of this, but I just think we should have one for everybody, and that would avoid all of this confusion, I think, wouldn't it? I also mentioned, don't use the words when you're making an inquiry, mingling, socialising or networking, because obviously as soon as you do a venue, it's going to be like, no, we can't do it. You can mingle within your 6 over here, and your other 6 can mingle over there, but they can't mingle together or socialise together and or network together. So that's just obviously the biggest setback for us all. So that's about trying to go forward with this. And then, of course, is how do we keep motivated through this, whether people have been furloughed, whether they've been made redundancy, or people might be back at work, but then their ex-colleagues are not back, or people are doing all the work because half the people aren't there, and everybody's in individual and different situation, and that's what's tough, because you're going through some of the same things as somebody one day, but not the next, and it's also staggered. None of it is great, is it, either at the moment. So one thing I really was demonstrating this morning is how the industry and supply chain is going to change dramatically over the next 12 months. And that's what's obviously bringing us all down, because we're all involved in that. We're all affected, and everybody's affected, the corporates, the venues, agencies, this whole industry, as we know, which again is why I think it was really great, the protest that happened yesterday. And you know, if we can all do more of that. I mean, I personally wasn't there. Maybe I will join in if they do one again, but for us all being aware that things are going on to sort of unite together somehow. So I was saying, you know, if it is getting tough, we all know the obvious things, you know, just take that breath and, you know, just walk away from your desk if it's getting too much. I think the biggest thing is remembering that you're not alone. I've had really bad days. It's been quite shocking, more when the kids were at home and I was trying to homeschool and everything was being cancelled, and I didn't have enough time, I didn't have enough hours in the day to focus on any one thing, and it was just absolutely awful. The girls are now back at school, hence why I'm even able to do stuff like this as well. So it's just being in control of something, and knowing that you're not alone in that at all. I know that we all say this a lot now, it's okay not to be okay, but that is so the truth. And with those bad days that I'm mentioning, you know, let yourself have those bad days. We had bad days when everything was going well anyway. So, okay, not so much, not quite so bad, but you just put it down and you're like, oh, that was a bit of a terrible day. I'm not going to swear, that was a bit of a terrible day, but you know, we've got tomorrow. Let's try and make tomorrow a better day, which is tough. And that's the tough. It's the not knowing at the moment, how long is this really going to go on for? How long are we individually going to be affected, and families and our business? And then it becomes overwhelming. And it's like, you know, just breathe, just take that step away again, and just focus, touch the ground, and just breathe and focus on and just doing the next thing that you're actually going to do, whether it's making lunch or, you know, working on a proposal, or that'd be nice, or whatever it is. And with that, you know, we are all working different hours and things, whether people are now full-time or part-time or furloughed or redundant, you know, everybody's affected in such different ways. So it is just getting through and just doing perhaps one activity a day, even if it's just making your bed for one person, or doing a PowerPoint presentation for another, and one thing I found really useful is it's actually listing all the things that you would normally do in your job, if it is something that you're going to continue with. I mean, some people are asking about setting up their own companies as well, which for a lot of people here, that's what you're doing anyway, and that's also, though, when it can seem you're quite a small fish in a big pond as well, because it's just like, oh, there's loads of fishes now, and it's just don't think like that. Just be like, right, what am I going to do? What do I want to do today? List all the things that you would normally do, list the stuff that you really enjoy doing. Is there any part of that you can still do as well? And staying connected because of that, because financially, obviously, the obvious thing, if everyone is being affected financially by this, which is where your personal situations, all our personal situations vary, and it's keeping grounded with everything that's happening. And whether it's you go off and do something different for a little while, or you do something as well as for a little while, or whatever it is you are able to do, and that's it, that's all fine as well. The industry is going to come back eventually. It is just a long haul, isn't it? It's just a long time now, and longer than any of us thought it was going to last for. So stay connected, keep your integrity, and stand by your network. Keep in touch with everybody in your support network, whether it's family and ex-colleagues or whatever, and ask for help. That everyone needs to be asking for help now, and being a bit more open, I think. And there's obviously the learning and development. I think a lot of people have taken the opportunity to learn new stuff, but that's if you can. Again, like me, there was no way I could do anything for pretty much the last 6 months. The girls have been back to school 3 weeks, and it's only now that I'm actually going, right, and that's where this webinar came from. So it's like, give yourself a break. If it's just not going to happen today, it's not going to happen today. But the thing is, as we've got here, we are one of the most entrepreneurial, creative, positive, and enthusiastic industries, and we are the ones that make magic happen for everybody else. So we will keep going, and this is not forever, which is the one thing that keeps me going. It might be that not everything is completely back this time next year, but it will be the year after, and it is that long term. I am seriously thinking long term here. And so what can I do in the next 6 months? Well, this is one of the things that I can do. I can do webinars. I'm going to do this once a month, have this catch up. Where are we? How we can help each other. I'll have guest speakers on, obviously, in future as well, so you're not always listening to me burbling on. But what I did want to do is share the love. We've got to dig deep here. We are in this together. Keep moving forwards, no matter how small those steps are. Keep moving forwards, because that will get to next year, we'll get to the year after, and my God, we are going to do this eventually. We've just got to bear with it, I think. So with that, big thank you for coming today, and just tapping in and being online, whether you're doing other stuff at the same time. I do that sometimes when I'm on a webinar. We can, because that's what we can do in this industry. We can multitask. So I just wanted to say thank you so much. If there's any questions, obviously, let me know. Hopefully I've covered everything, because I was using questions that people asked first thing this morning to just update the presentation for later today. So I'll say farewell. Keep your pecker up. If you want to have a catch up or Zoom or whatever at any point in the next few weeks, do let me know. I am here, and I've always been quite open, as you know, and don't feel worried about reaching out, or just saying hi as well. It's good for us all to keep connected. I'll send you information on the next one if you're interested, and all the further ones, and then we'll see where we are at the end of this, at the end of the 6 months. So thank you big time for coming today. I massively appreciate it, and I shall stop sharing this screen now. And there we go, there I am. I will wave and say farewell. Thank you so much, and I'll catch up with you soon. All right, take care. Bye-bye.